Let me see it. How bright I can get it in here. As bright as you can do it. That's good. There you go. There you go. I like it. All right. Get ready, people. You ready? When you hear Concord, go ape shit. Here we go. Here we go. The bug definitely just flew in my fucking mouth. I swear to God. A bug 100% just flew in my mouth. Okay. Ready? All right. Oh, shit. I'm in Concord, California.
HustleDreamProduction.
Alright YouTube, with this haircut, I'm not going to speed anything up. I'm just going to go frame by frame, basically teaching you guys how I do it in real time. Alright, first step I'm going to take is grabbing my Andis Slimline Pro LIs, and I'm going to set in my first bald line. Now, when doing a man bun, I'm running that bald line. It's kind of like a drop fade. It's like a straight drop fade. I'm not running the clipper back because that would make an awkward fade for this man bun. So I'm just kind of running it back as you see me doing, making sure that everything is neat as possible. Because if the fade, or excuse me, if the guideline isn't straight, then you're gonna have a sloppy blend. So make sure your guideline is straight as possible. Also, the reason why I'm using my slim lines and not my balding blade is because I can get an accurate line with something so small of a blade like the slim lines. So I always like to think of this as the easy part. I got my wall magic clip. I converted these into balding clippers, and all I'm doing is taking off the rest of the bulk at the bottom. So basically how I converted these magic clips into balding clippers is that I just took a balding clipper that I already had. I took the blade off of it and basically just put it on to this clipper. And this clipper was technically designed and made, custom made by B. Clark Customs, but I also did it to one of my other blades which didn't have a lever on it. So if you do end up taking the blade from the balding clippers, just know that it's not gonna have a lever on it. So the next step you want to take is that I'm going to use my wall seniors and go up about 1 inch and make sure I keep that consistent all the way through. Now when you're setting in your guidelines, it's strictly an up and down motion. You don't have to flick or do any extra movements. Just up and down, putting it in. Make sure you utilize both of your hands. As you've seen, I grabbed the ear down with one of my fingers, and I'm just making everything comfortable for my client so the blade won't hit his ear. As you can see, as I'm going around the back, I'm getting a little wider with my guideline because there's a lot of room in the back, more so than on the side. So I like to go up, I think about a half inch, let me see, an inch and a half, I should say. towards the back, and then I go smaller as I go around to the side. So after I set it in, I always like to go back over my guideline just to make sure that I'm not missing any hair. So with the one guard on with the lever closed, I'm gonna go downward on my client's front edge, and I'm just gonna, bring it all the way around, because I don't want to go up and, take off some of the braids that's connected. Going down is easier. I know which, hair is separated. When you go up, sometimes that the teeth will get caught up into the braid area, the braided part, and, you could kind of, do too much. So right now I'm taking, cautious measures, and I'm basically just running that clipper down. So same thing on this side, starting with the hair in the front, I'm just taking it down, being, cautious as possible, taking my time, just knocking that hair down. Now with the one guard open, I'm going up about 1 inch, and I'm making sure that I'm consistent all the way through. So I'm not gonna go and grab another guard. This is gonna be my highest guard that I'm using, is the one guard open. And again, I'm just making sure that I go straight up and I'm not actually digging in, so therefore I could, dig into the top of the hair, which will, mess everything up. I don't want to do that, so I'm just running that clipper straight up and making sure I'm consistent as possible. You want to make sure you utilize your left hand as well and brush everything back down. I know with coarse hair, as soon as you go up on it, it kind of messes up. So you want to make sure everything is laid back down when you're, either setting in guidelines or, blending, because coarse hair, it can get real, what do you say? It really mess the hair up and just get everything out of place, and it will stay there until you brush that hair down. So with the zero guard closed, in a flick out motion, flick out the middle line. Notice how I'm using my corners in them tight areas by the lineup. I want to keep that area as dark as possible. And when I get to the area that's more fuller on the sides, as you can see, I'm using my full blade. There's no need to use your corners, on the side where it's just no corners. It's just obviously a blank canvas right there. So what you want to do is make sure you start from the bottom and flick to the line. You don't want to start at the line and flick up, because it's gonna bring that fade up. You don't want to do that. All you're doing and all you're trying to focus on doing is breaking that line. So flick at the bottom of the line to the line. And for you guys that's just starting out, it's gonna take time for you to actually get this flick out motion down. You know what I mean? You gotta practice, you gotta keep going, you gotta keep striving to get better and better and better. Don't be discouraged. When you hold that clipper, don't be so uncomfortable with it. You know what I mean? Of course, starting out, you're going to be uncomfortable. You're not going to know how to hold the clipper. But as you keep going, you know what I mean? Don't be afraid to bend your wrists a little bit. Loosen up. You know what I mean? Don't be so stiff when you're holding that clipper. Loosen up on that grip and let that clipper do the work and start, you know, flicking that wrist. So with the lever closed, in that same flick out motion, flick out that bottom line. Keep in mind that you want to start at the below, you want to start below the line and flick to the line, all right? And I just want to tell you guys, practice makes perfect. I wasn't always good. I don't feel like I'm the best right now. I still feel that I need work, and I've been cutting since I was 14. So not professionally, but you know, I've been cutting hair consistently since I was 14, and you know, it just takes time. If this is your first time starting out, that's all you're gonna need. You're gonna need practice. You're gonna need to cut hair. You're gonna need to stay consistent, and that's with anything you do in life. You know what I mean? Don't let something discourage you and stop you from doing it, and then you know you're ready to give up, and you never actually mastered, you know, what you could have been if you kept going. So remember that too. Just because you're not as good in what you see right now, you want to be where I'm at, and you want to be, you know, better than what you are now. Just remember, it takes practice. Just keep going. All right. Just put in 100% work. Nobody ever succeeds going 50%. So make sure you keep that in mind. Go 100% when you're practice at trying to get better at this, you know, your craft or whatnot. So I wasn't always good at cutting hair. Like I said, it takes practice and just being patient and just having the patience and willingness to grow, man. Don't give up. Anybody asks me how I got here, it's because I stayed with it. Stayed with whatever I was doing. I just stayed with it. I just kept going. Even when times got rough, I kept striving to be better, kept wanting to know more information. And the information is out there, just like you're here right now searching on YouTube. If you want to know how I got here, it's basically hard work. I never stopped doing what it is that I love to do. So if this is something that you have a heart for, something that you have a love for, I'm pretty sure, you know, you're watching this video because you want to get better, and I appreciate you for being here and choosing me to watch. But it all takes consistency and just being patient enough to grow. So right now I'm using my Bronze Series 9s. These are balding shavers, and I'm just balding out the bottom because it gives it a cleaner look. Now, I'm not digging in hard because he is an African American, and most African Americans, when you put these shavers on, they start to bump up. So you want to make sure you go light. You know, I use this on plenty of African Americans, and not one bumped up. But you know, there's specific people that have, you know, sensitive skin, so you know those clients, so you know which ones you can do it to and which ones you cannot. So right here, I'm just doing some detail work. What you want to do after you finish the blend is take a look away from your blend, okay? Because you can get wrapped up into looking how blurry this thing is that you lose focus. Nah, I'm just messing with you, but really though, take a look at something else for a while, just for a split second, to get your mind, get your eyes right. look back at the blend and do some detail work. Use your corners as much as possible. If you see some bulk in certain areas, just use your corners, like you see me do right here, and just use your blade as a thinning shear to get between those bulky areas. You don't have to use the full blade when you're cutting hair. You can use the corners of the blade. It cuts the same. Just make sure that the blade is actually tilted from the head and you're using the corner and not the full blade, because if you end up using the full blade, you could actually mess up something on the other side of that blade that you didn't want to come off, and then you have to blend higher, and it gets kind of messy. So actually focus on what you're doing and just attack those areas with your corners. So with the zero guard open, I'm knocking down that tip of that front line just so the edge up can be as crispy as possible. I do this so when you brush down that hair, you know what I mean, when you line it up, no loose hairs will come out of it after you line it up. So if you knock down the hair, it'll line up crispier. Now as far as the front line, I like to start in the middle and work my way to the right, then go on to the other side and finish it off. Now here's the trouble that some of you have. Some of you are right up on the client and it is looking dead on one side. You know what I mean? You guys need to back up, set that guideline in the middle of your client's head, and then go off to the side. Keep in mind that if you stand back and do the line, you can have a clear visual on both sides. So you won't be leaning the clipper down and going down and then, tilting that lineup part and, messing up that lineup. So what you need to do is back up, set your guidelines in first, make sure that thing is straight, and then set in your basically your hard lines. Do the rough draft first from far away, then get up on it and refine it. So right now I'm spraying some hairspray on my client's lineup just so I could come behind it with enhancements. I'm using the Enhance by Chuka the Barber. He ended up hooking me with he ended up hooking me up. Dang, his name is Chuka, so it's kind of throwing me off. He ended up hooking me up with this hair fiber, and that's love. Shout out to Chuka the Barber for doing that. I'm using it because my client it's back at the time when I was doing this video, it was his prom day, so he wanted to look as crispy as possible, and just doing some enhancement goes a long way with how your clients feel about their haircut. So right now I'm just relining the hair fibers, making sure that it's crispy, and just being cautious with not pushing it back any further than the natural line. So with doing the razor line, you want to set your blade at a 45-degree angle, stretch the skin with your thumb, and then just run that blade back to your client's lineup. Now this right here takes practice. When I first started, I was going very, very slow. Right now I'm able to, just use that blade and, move it comfortably. I know what the blade is going to do to the skin. But when you first start out, make sure you go as slow as possible. Make sure that the blade is at a 45-degree angle and you're just sliding it across the skin. Don't dig in, okay? Please don't dig in, because that could be real bad. You want to make sure you look out for the pimples as well. Sometimes, pimples be in the way. You want to make sure you go around them, because if you cut that pimple, if you glide that blade across that pimple, it's a wrap. You know what I mean? It's basically blood. It's blood everywhere. So, but in most cases, sometimes it'll only be a red dot. So don't worry about that. If the pimples are just everywhere, don't really worry about it too much. Just be as cautious as possible. So I always like to end the video with a spin around of how my client looked before and how he looked after. YouTube, this is the cut. And if you like it, make sure you give it a thumbs up. If you like these long tutorial videos where I'm really going in depth and explaining everything step by step, make sure you give it a thumbs up. Let me know in the comment section below if you want to see more. But if you've seen any tools in this video that you would like to purchase, make sure you check out the links in the description below. Make sure you guys follow me on Instagram and Snapchat. My Snapchat is Jeezy360 and my Instagram is 360Jeezy. But it's your boy 360Jeezy, and I'm out of here. Cheers!